It's great to be interviewing the man I call the modern founder of Harcourts, Mr. Steve Collins. Steve, thank you for joining us. Can you perhaps tell us what your vision for Harcourts was 1985 when you merged your business with Harcourts?
The reason I did it and the reason I picked Harcourts twofold. First of all, I liked their philosophy. They were old-fashioned, they were honest, they liked to do the job properly. They weren't a fast-talking real estate organisation. They were a very, very old company, 1888, long time ago. And they had credibility, and I like the fact that it was 1888, because there aren't many companies in the world, but certainly not in New Zealand, that have that sort of continuity. And if you're around for that long, it means you're doing something right. And we researched the Harcourts name, and it goes back to 1066, to the Domesday Book, both in France and in England. So this is a family with history all the way around the world. You go to Hong Kong, and there's Harcourts is a brand in Hong Kong, not the real estate, but Harcourts as a brand. And so I just thought it was a wonderful name and a wonderful brand. It smacks of honesty and propriety and doing things the right way, and that's how I believe you've got to do business.
Steve, tell us about the start, the number of offices you had and where you were planning to take Harcourts.
We were just opening our fifth, Collins Real Estate was just opening its fifth office in Christchurch in Papanui, and we held back on doing that until we changed the brand so we didn't have to do lots of signage. So I had 5 offices in Christchurch, and Harcourts had 9 offices in Wellington, up the Kapiti Coast, and in Martinborough, and that's where we started with 14 offices. My initial focus was on New Zealand domination. Really, I thought that for things to work, you've got to have a good brand, it's got to mean something, and I wanted people, I didn't want to compete with other real estate firms at all. That really, I've never have, it just didn't interest me. What I wanted people to come to Harcourts because Harcourts wasn't like other real estate firms. That this was a brand that if you went to them, there was expectation for you to get a result. And I've always believed that if you list someone's house and you sell it, they actually expected that. So unless you do something better than that, all you're doing is meeting their expectations. So going that extra way, providing a level of service greater than the expectation of your clients, is something that I've lived by all my life.
Steve, tell us about the Harcourts Crest, where it came from and what were its origins.
Well, it's marketing, you know. Originally we started looking at where the history of the company was, firstly out of interest, and B, to see where the name had come from. And we traced it back to the Domesday Book, and we researched it, and we made some inquiries in England, and we discovered that the English and the French Harcourts, both royal families, had crests. They were both different crests, but the crest that we found that was provided to us had the most perfect inscription on it that almost brought tears to my eyes, because it was so much what I have tried to engender into Harcourts as a real estate operation. And I'm happy to share that with you now, but the crest is sitting behind me, Paul, and you'll see if I move aside that the wording underneath it says, "Deeds surpass words." And if we could live like that, and if we could do our business like that, we are unstoppable, because it's hard to find any organisation that provides that level of service.
We're celebrating 125 years. Looking back, Steve, what have been the highlights for you?
This has been the most amazing journey, and the most important thing about the journey is that there are no such thing as successful companies. There are only successful people. And you get enough successful people together and they become a successful company, or a successful brand, as I believe Harcourts to be. And there are so many people, have touched me and have supported me and helped me all over the world. I'm not here day to day, but when I go to places and I see people that I've never met before in new offices and new places, the thing that I see every time is the quality of the people. And that's what's been the journey for me and made it so exciting.
Steve, what do you think it takes to be successful in real estate?
I think it's the same in anything. It's not just real estate. A guy by the name of Steve Brown who was a real estate trainer for many, many years, very successful in the United States. He said something which I think personifies all the things that I believe. He said, successful people become successful by developing the habit of doing things that unsuccessful people will not do. I believe that we are in the most beautiful industry that you can be in, especially in terms of cost of entry. A car, a phone, a commitment, some licensing requirements, and you're in business, and how successful you are is just based on what you're prepared to commit to do. And I think it's a simple business, and I think we try and complicate it too much sometimes. There's only one time that I believe you can make money in the real estate business, and that's when you're with someone who can say yes. Yes, I'll list, yes, I'll sell, yes, I'll accept the offer, yes, I'll auction, whatever the case may be. And the rest of everything that we do in this industry is stuff. And if we could find a way to focus more on being with people who can say yes and have other people help us do the stuff, there is no limit, as we know, because we just have to look around some of the people in our organisation. There's no limit to the level of success people cannot reach. And finally, I'd like to say one thing. Harcourts guys make me so proud. I'm not involved with it day to day, as everybody knows, but I'm still on the board. I still see people. I'm still involved. I still actually talk to officers from time to time. I promise that I won't, but when people ask me 3 times, I usually give in. And I just can't help the pride that I feel with the brand, with the people, with the success, and all the things we're doing. It really is a remarkable company, and I have been honoured to be part of it.
Steve, have you got a message for our South African friends?
I do. I went to Wild Coast Sun, must be, I can't even remember how many years ago. Well, I guess I sort of can, 7 and 8, 20 years ago, because I brought my kids. And we stayed at Wild Coast Sun at a conference with you guys. And at the end of the conference, we had this huge dinner, and I was there as a Harcourt speaker at your conference. And I was wearing what I call the Harcourt support system, which looks something like this. And at the end of the evening, we had an auction to raise money for one of the local charities. And somebody said, "Hey Steve, take your braces off and we'll put them up for auction." And I took them off and I signed them, and we put them up for auction, and we got a really good price for them because it was a really good charity. And amazingly enough, those braces have found their way back to New Zealand. And so what I'd like to do is send them back to South Africa more specifically, and I'd like them to be auctioned again for a really good charity, and I'd like someone to pay a lot of money for them, because it'll be the last bit of memorabilia that comes off Stephen Collins' shoulders in his lifetime with Harcourts.